Greetings and welcome again to Danger Aware Animation Department. I am Ray Howell, the Chief Information Officer for Danger Aware and the lead animator. Right now we are working on our Super Aware Kid, and this is part 5 of the development of the character. The Super Aware Kid representative of what we want every kid to be, super aware. To be aware of the 7 processes used by abusers to condition their victims. Those processes are targeting, where they find a victim, whether that's by happenstance or they literally seek them out to find them on the internet, in person, whatever. Then they befriend that person, they become their bestie as best they can. Then they become ingratiating. They provide whatever they can that person seems to be needing. So if that person is needing somebody to compliment them, then they start complimenting. If they need somebody to spend time with them, then they spend time with them. If they need somebody to give them money, then they give them money, and so on. So that is ingratiating. The next step is conspiracy, where they begin introducing secrets and keeping information from other people, making it a conspiracy between the victim and the abuser to keep the abuse secret. Although it's not yet abuse at this point, generally it's just, let's see if we can get this person to keep secrets. Next comes the indoctrination, where the abuser will introduce the victim to the type of abuse that they prefer, whether that be verbal abuse or physical abuse or psychological abuse or sexual abuse. These are all going to follow similar methods of indoctrination, where it's first a little thing, nothing that could be considered abuse. Those little things are allowed to occur again and again. The indoctrination of going further and further into the abuse continues, and by this time the abuser has the victim within the conspiracy of keeping quiet what's going on. The next step is manipulation, where the abuser begins to try to manipulate everybody in that person's life so that the victim becomes to be seen as somebody who is unstable, or somebody who lies a lot, or somebody who makes mistakes, or something to that along those lines. So the manipulation is not just of the victim, but of those around the victim. So to those around the victim, the person tries to be the most perfect gentleman or lady and the perfect person to be around, but when they're alone with their victim is when the conspiracy and indoctrination occurs and continues, and the manipulation is more about the outsiders than the victim. And then finally is control of the victim, where the victim literally is afraid to make friends, talk to strangers, talk to anybody who might help them get out of their situation where they're being abused. So that's the purposes of our Super Aware Kid, is to teach these processes to the young and vulnerable so that they do not become victims. So we're trying to do that in games and contests and comics and eventually cartoons, and one of those cartoons will include this character. So we'll be creating short videos where this character will step into situations and give advice on preventing bad things from happening. And so if you have any story suggestions for that, please share them below. We may be able to use them in our videos and incorporate your story into our attempts to educate the young and vulnerable against this kind of thing happening. So we started with a drawing that we had commissioned from a person on Fiverr.com. That artist's name is Best Man In. We asked him to produce us a character that was indeterminate of age or of sexual status, because we want this to be every kid. So we were shooting for between like 8 to 12, 14 years old, but it could be a male, it could be female, so the clothing is baggy, you really can't tell. And when we use this character, we're going to fuzz them out considerably, which is how he drew them for us. We described all that, and he produced exactly what we were after, which is a fuzzed out, featureless character with, you know, there's features there, but they're not distinct enough to say, well, that's a girl, no, that's a guy, no, well, anyway, so that's what we've got here. This is our character. We've created the basic layout. We fine-tuned all the bones and joints, or most of them anyway, I think I've got them, where we can now manipulate the character, and the movements look fairly reasonable. You know, not perfect in every way, of course, but we're not done. We're still developing the character. So we're going to start addressing how things are going to work as we manipulate the character into head and body and leg movements. And we want to complete the look of what the drawing is, because we want to be able to have the character turn their head, turn their shoulders, and turn their hips, and even turn the feet as we need to produce any view we would like of these 4 possible views here. We'll probably eventually do a view from behind as well, but at this point we're just working on the forward view and going to 3/4 and then possibly to a full profile view of the character. Now, before I start changing anything as far as the character is, you know, for completing the look, which is what we're going to be working on here, I need to change some things over here on the right. So I was thinking about the character's legs and how we're going to be wanting to be able to have him or her cross the leg like this, come back, and then cross the leg behind. Well, the way I've set it up, I could do that in the entire leg section, the way this is set up, but in reality, I would rather be able to do each individual part so that we could have the shin and the foot overlapping, as in sitting cross-legged. That's what I was actually thinking of, is when I put the character in cross-leg mode, and we will bring the hips down for that. So don't worry about how this looks at the moment for cross legs. But I was just thinking, well, we'd really like to have this foot come out on top of this hip here. And in order to do that, we can't do it because I've grouped these into separate legs. And because of that, I cannot overlap the shin or the thigh of one leg with the other anytime I want during animation. Now, I can do it right now during construction. I could change things around to make it that way, but it wouldn't carry over into animation except to have to come over and change this stuff constantly. And or for each scene, actually, we'd have to change it in the construction layer, shoot the scene, then change the construction and shoot the next scene so that the feet would be in the right place. But fortunately, Moho provides us a feature to fix that, which is the animated layers. So what we're going to do first of all is put all of these parts into the same group so that they're easily interchangeable. So the pelvis, both legs, all in one single group that I'm going to name legs. So we're going to just change this here to legs. Then we're going to take these parts and move them inside legs. Now you can see that throws them off because they are reversed from the originals. Now I'm going to need to go back in and reverse them again, because when we removed it from the left leg, that's where we did our reversing. So now that they're out of the left leg, they're back to their normal shape. So now we're going to delete this left leg group. We don't have anything in any longer. And then we're going to move the pelvis into the legs group. So if you move your little line right inside, now you see the pelvis jumped over and is now part of the legs group. So now I can manipulate these in the grouping together. And the way we do that is we go into the controls and we go to depth sort. And inside of depth sort, we have enable animated layer order. And we're going to enable that here, and we click apply. And what that now allows us to do is to animate these parts, moving them over top of each other layer wise during animation. And you can see the little icon here's got this layers of sheets there that are going back and forth. And now we can move the leg parts where they need to be. So here's the shoe. Now we grab the layer, and we want the tip of that bone right at the tip of the knot. So basically right there. And then we do the left shin. And we simply use T and pick it up and move it over. It looks like I have a little circle there for bone purposes, maybe. Let's get rid of it. There we go. So now we need to bring this over, and we need to reverse it so it's the right direction. Now we can place it where it's in the center of the knee there. And then the same thing with the left thigh. Give it the L header, and then pick it up using T, and we flip it, and then shift drag to move it over. And let's just rotate it a bit. There we go. That looks good. So now let's see if we're bound properly. Yes, that's working. That knee works pretty good. And you can see I've got the edges hidden. Let's go ahead and show all those edges, because we're going to use a patch on these to patch the knee, literally. Let's see. So yeah, that one's on and that one's on. Then we go to the shin and we want to turn this one on and this one on. And back to the thigh, this one and this one. So yeah, we're going to be using patches on all of these parts instead of hiding edges. Hiding edges works in some cases, patches work better in others. So we're going to use patches here. And I think that's it. Oh, the bottom of the shins was also hidden. So put those back on. And I'm only going through all these details because if you've been with me since the beginning videos, then you're going to want to know why did these things change and I didn't see them get changed. So now you can see what I'm doing. And so now what we can do is during animation, if we go to the animation layer, we can actually do a dance move. So if the character needs to swing their leg over and in front of the other leg, then it brings it down like this, and then we want it to swing behind, so we go to 25, and now we come down, and because we've got these legs set where we can adjust them, we can move the right shin behind the left thigh. So we can do the whole thing, or we can just do the thigh and the shin like this, or actually let's just do the shin and the shoe, and we're going to drop them down below the left side. And so now when we bring our leg up, it will be behind. We've got to go back to the bone layer. So when we now bring our bone up at 48, it should be behind the leg. and then at 72 we would bring it back down, and then again repeat. So if we play this out, you can see that the foot goes in front, then behind and back. So that's what we can do using animated layers. The thing is, this does add more memory to your animation. So when you go to render your final animation, this will extend the amount of time it takes to complete that process. Alright, so now what we're going to work on is patches in for the knees and the hips, thighs. So we're going to create a patch to the pelvis, and we want to put it all the way to the top here, I think. And let's move it down, and there we go. So that is taking care of the overlapping of the hip with the thigh. So we're going to put this right at the bone tip, and that's the bone we're going to pair this layer with. So it will be part of the bone as the bone moves. So does it work the other side? Yes. Let's just keep it as it is. We'll put this here, and then we'll just duplicate the patch, and it's just move one of them over. So then we bind it to that bone. We need to do the knees separate, so we have to go to the shin of the left shin and create a patch, and that would be with the pelvis, and tell it OK. And let's move that up. It's again called pelvis patch, and let's bring it down. Oh wait, we didn't want that with the pelvis, we want that with the thigh. So let's go into that and go to the patch layer and change it to the right thigh, and apply, and OK, and there we go. So let's go patch for the shin and connect that to the left thigh, and that will call it the thigh patch. Then we move it up here, then we move the thigh patch into position, and there we go. So that's how that all works properly. So we're going to stick it here. We're going to make it a little bit bigger than the knee, put it on that bone, and so now we've got our patches for our hips and thighs, and we want to keep them at the top so that they, if you move them below the parts, then they no longer work right. So we keep the patches above the parts we're patching. Alright, so now let's bind those each to this bone, each patch to its own bone. So this one to this bone, and then this one to this bone. So the patches are being bound to basically the same bone on each side. And there we go. And that patch looks like it's a little off. So let's put it down where it belongs. So now as we move the character around, the pants look like they're a complete set of pants, but they're actually individual parts that we can now manipulate in front of and behind each other. So as this all started with trying to do cross legs, let's see how that works out now. So now we can bring the legs up to cross like this and like this. And when we want that shoe, so this shoe should be on top of both the, oh, the patch is coming through. I didn't know the patch would work on the shoe. Can we move the shoe above? There, we get, now it's still below the patch. What if we move the shoe above the patch? So that works. We can move the shoes above the patches, but is that going to affect everything else? Not really. That seems to be what we were after. So we now want to bring that right shin over the left thigh. So we can bring the left shin over the right thigh, and voila, our crossed legs look proper. So, except for the hips. We're going to fix the hip part later. But otherwise, our effect of the legs crossing over, it looks like it should. So there we go. So now what we want to get into is the hair. So when we look at our character, let's go all the way to the base character here, and we're just going to go to the base start of everything, which returns our character to the rest state. So this is our rest state of our character, and as we go into animation, we can start playing around with moving things and doing things to it. So what we need to think about is, well, when we start animating the character and the character turns the head, well, you see how the hair is moving with the head, but it doesn't move like hair moves. You know, it's simply moving exactly as the head moves. So the first thing we want to do is to change how the hair is actually reacting to the movement of the head bone. So the eyebrows, those are fine. I don't think we need to change those any, but the reason I set these pin bones on each side of the head here was so that when we move the head, that the hair goes with that pin bone. So when we tilt the head to the left, the hair on the left drops down and the hair on the right goes up. When we tilt the head to the right, the hair on the right goes down and the hair on the left goes up. But as you can see, it's like they used a ton of hairspray to keep the hair from moving. Well, we want to make it move like hair. So what I did was I put these pin bones and then I attached these hair bones to those pin bones. And it doesn't look like I've got the hair actually set properly. So let's go through the hair, and I am going to add some more hair behind. So let's add, while we're in the bone layer, we're going to add 2 more bones. So we're going to use this bone here and add the hair that's going to hang behind the head, and this bone here for the hair that's going to hang behind the head on this side. Alright, and then let's go ahead and on the back hair here, we're going to import an image, and that is the hair behind hair left, which it comes in super large, but that's fine. We shrink it to what we need. To make the hair the same size as the other hairs, we can simply grab one of the circles and then shrink our image until those circles are overlapping in approximately the same size. So like that. So now we know we've got the hair at the proper size to match the rest of our hair. So this is hair from behind, so we'll put it here, and then we're going to duplicate it and bring the duplicate down just a bit to here. So there's 2 hair behinds there, and then we're going to bring in the other side, so the right hand side image of hair. So here's for the right hand side. Again, we shrink it down, cover one of our other existing hair curls, and shrink this down until we're about the same size. That's a little too much, right about there. There we go. So now we can bring this one in to behind the head here, And last time I think we were centered on the eyeball. Let's go ahead and do that again. And then we're going to make a duplicate of that and then bring that down to here and over here just a bit. So now we're going to go into each piece of hair and confirm that it is paired to the proper bone. So the front top of hair, that's all one piece here. So let's just, it's obviously connected to the pin bone here right now. We'll leave that to that. Then we want to be in the bind layer. So you can see now we've got the top front hair bound to this pin bone here. The front lock number 5, which you can see by the blue outline, that's where it is, and it's bound to that bone. That's fine. This hair, which is down here, is to that bone. That's fine. That one's to that one is fine. That one to that one is fine. That one to that one is fine. That one to that one is fine. So those are all good. So now we're getting to the ones behind the head. So this is the lower one here on the back. We want to make that bound to this bone. Then the hair behind there also to this bone. The hair on the left to this bone, and the one above that to this bone as well. Then we've got the back hair on the top, and it's bound to the other pin bone so that the top and front and back can be manipulated separately if we needed. And then the hair behind the head on the right is to that bone, which is not correct because we've got it says it's hair behind right, but it's on the left because you can see the blue outline. So let's go ahead and pair that to this bone. And I think it's because it was a duplicate, but maybe not. Maybe I named them wrong, or I've got them set wrong. So this one should be bound to this bone. So now let's test everything. Oh, and we see now when we go to test, we have strength on these bones that we just recently created. So we need to go to the bone layer and reduce the strength on those bones so they don't affect anything that we don't want them to. So there we go. And now we can test our hair. And as we can see, as we move it, now everything's moving left and right as we want. But now what we want to do is have it come falling out from behind the head. And the way we do that is these pin bones are keeping everything in the right places. And these other bones are allowing us to manipulate those parts. So we can make the hair swing in the wind if we want to do that. Just like this. Or we can use bone dynamics and make it swing. But before we do that, we are going to use bone constraints. And we're going to select all of these bones that are hanging down. So shift, grabbing these bones over here, grabbing the new bones up here as well. And we're going to go into the bone constraints, and we're going to give them all independent angle. And what this means is they will continue to point in the direction they are currently pointing in, no matter how I turn the head. So now as we twist the head left and right, the hair falls and moves up and down and left and right with the hair movement. So looks like I got a little piece of curl here I need to take care of. And the top hair should be connecting to the bottom hair better there. So I think we need to bring the bottom one here on over. So let's grab its layer, and we're going to bring it on over to there like that, and then test everything and see how it flows. So yeah, that's better. So as you can see, we've got some gappy stuff, but normal people have gaps in their hair too. So now we've got our hair that flows left and right. And eventually when we start doing the head turn, we will use these hair behind and bring them around in animation to make them come to the side of the head and hide the ear and so on, so that we can create the head turn views that exist here. So now we've got the hair functioning, and we can make that even better, and we will when we start creating actions for the movement of bones. So we can create an action for this movement where these hair they can only move so far and not any further. And when we bring this way up over like this, we can actually drop these down to where they belong and individually in an animation action, so that no matter when we do this, that's not going to look funky with this point of hair up there. So don't worry that that's doing that right now. We will fix that when we start adding actions and when we add the action bone to this head tilt bone right here. Now, as you can see, we've got constraints on this bone onto how far it can move over. We can and should do that for the hair follicles as well. But I think we should worry about that when we do the actual head tilt. We'll worry about doing the constraints at that point. So we're going to go ahead and move on now to the torso. So we want to make the torso match the look of the torso here. Not entirely, because we are going to keep the left and right sleeves fairly much the same as each other, and instead of keeping a variance here. So we're going to put a triangle on the edge of both of them. We're going to put a stripe down the edge on both of them. And since we duplicated this sleeve over here to do this arm and sleeve over here, we will do the trim here and then duplicate it to over here so that we're consistent. So the first thing we want to work on is to do the shading that we've got on the pants here. So you can see when we're looking at the drawing, let's bring the drawing to full transparent or non-transparency, so to 100 and apply. So as you can see, the artist, Best Man In, he highlights this area of the pants in order to show depth and roundness. So we're going to add this highlighting to the pants and also to the shirt. So what we need to do first is create a new style, and we're going to call it highlight. And of course it's going to be white, and the border of it will be white as well. And let's go ahead and make the brush as small as we can. I'm not sure. Oh, I was on circle before. That's why it had that small width for it. So that's fine. For our highlighting, we don't want a thick edge, and in fact, we're just going to thin it out to complete transparency. And then on the rest of the highlighting, we're going to create a splotchy effect. So we want this to be transparent, so we're going to bring it down to, let's try starting at about 50 and see how that works. So we're going to create a transparency of 50, and then we want to make it splotchy. When we go into splotchy, we can change two things here: magnitude and scale. Let me cancel and change the color for the moment. Let's go to red for a bit while we create the splotch. So now we're going to go to splotchy, and we're not on our, what happened? Hold on. We're not on our style. We need to be on highlight. We want to change the color of highlight to red. There we go. And it's transparent, so now let's go in to make it splotchy. And so we can change the magnitude and we can change the scale. So I think the transparency is not letting us see the effect very well. Let's cancel this and go back into highlight and turn this back to solid. Now let's go to splotchy, There we go. So now you can begin to see how the splotchy effect changes with the scale. So basically they've got a splotchy pattern, and the scale is how close we're going to get into the individual pixels. So, but they're all blurred, so you're not going to look at individual pixels. But this determines how splotchy our differences are. And then the magnitude is how much difference in color we get from the base color in that splotchy pattern. So as you can see here, we can now change the scale and you can really see the difference in what you get. So we're going to go, let's go about 14, and the magnitude, let's start at about 50. And let's try that. Now we're going to change the red back to white, and then go in and create a transparency, and let's see, what did we say, 50? So we'll start at 50 and see how that looks. So now we've got our splotchy effect, so we can turn off the original kid and turn on our current kid, and we're going to go down into each of these parts to add the highlight. So let's start with the pelvis, and there's two different parts on the pelvis. There's a left and a right. So we're going to draw a new splotchy area here and a new splotchy area here. And if we go and look at that rendered, you can see it looks quite actually not splotchy at all, because we're fuzzing it. A little splotchy, but not much. Let's take the fuzzing off the character so we can really see what we're doing, and then we'll put the fuzz, the blur radius back when we're ready to actually animate. So there we go, we've applied. So now when we render, we can see, oh, well, they're splotchy, but they're very ordered. You know, they're very obviously circles. That's not what the gentleman who drew the character meant for us to do. So what we can do is go into this highlight, and we can drop this visibility way down to where it's just barely showing. And now let's render that. So that looks better. That's more approximating the look we're after, which is the, you know, character having this, but you can see it kind of fades off a bit. And so what we can do is, let's go to the edge and bring it back a little, and we can make it an effect here of soft edge, and we'll leave it at 11.85 at the moment to see how that works. And then we're going to make the stroke thicker, so let's create a, you know, normal, let's try 3, and then we'll turn off the super wear kid, and for some reason, oh, the patch. Our patch is going to give us an effect on these highlights. Well, let's see what that does. Well, it doesn't do too much. As you can see here, we don't see a whole lot. And it looks like our splotchiness is definitely not good enough yet. So let's go in and change the magnitude and see how that does. So there we go. Now we're getting more splotchiness. We're getting darker patches coming through. Let's try a little bit more. Let's go, oops, not soft edge, the splotchy. Went to the wrong part. So then we keep changing our item we're working on. Alright, so we're going to go into the splotchiness, and let's go to 200 and see what that looks like. And now we can render it. I think we could still use a little more, or maybe if we went a little more transparent, but we're at an 8 now. Let's Let's go back up to 12. And let's render that. Okay, so as we move away, we get the better splotchiness, but because they're ovals, they're going to look like ovals. So what we need to do now that we've got them somewhat looking like we want them to, we're going to go into each one of these ovals, hit T, and then we're going to use scripts, and under scripts there's one for draw, and under draw we're going to go down and we're going to split the curve. And what this is going to do is it's going to add 2 more points between every point that's on that circle already. So, and it's going to distribute them evenly. We're going to do that to both sides. So again, we're going to go to scripts and draw, and inside of draw, split curve, and we can change it from 2 to 3 to 6. 10 is your maximum split, but we only want 2 at this point. So we're going to go 2. And now what we can do is we're going to grab these points and simply start manipulating them to change what this basic look is of the overlay here. We're going to add some darker inserts by moving these around, but we still want to keep our basic shape of where our highlighting is occurring. So we can do all kinds of things like this and create some weird looking shapes. But now when we render, it's even more closer to what Best Man was trying to do for us, I think. So let's try going to a little bit of gray. See what that does for us. Oh, that's better. So yeah, let's take it even further into the gray for the color of the fill. So we're not just strictly bright white. Yeah, that's better. So now we can go in here and change the curves. So T to grab all of it and hit C, and now we can reduce those curves so they're not so round. And the same thing on the other one here. Hit C for curve and drag to the left. And now let's take a look. What does that look like? So yeah, that's looking more and more like just highlighting on the legs. So it could use a little bit of adjusting, you know, which is fine. We just need to make it more what we want. So we can bring that like this, bring this up like that, and this creates the effect of folds in the cloth, but we're only affecting the highlighting of those folds. Whoops, I didn't want to move that one. So this one over to there. And now when we render, look at that. So we're going to just copy one of these, control copy, and now we're going to move into the left thigh, and we're just going to control V and paste it and move it down, and we're just going to not quite overlap with the old one. In fact, looks like the patch there is grabbing there, so we can bring this to right there, and we don't want it to be exactly the same as the one above, so we're going to grab the magnet tool here, and we're just going to grab some points and randomly move them around so that we're no longer the exact same shape that we were. And we can also come in and just add points. So if we want to add a point here or add a point over here, we can do that. Now these are sharp points, so we hit T, then C, and we can increase the curve. So now we've got more of a curve and more of a distortion. So we control render, and now look at that. That's wonderful, I think. I think that's going to work great for highlighting without overdoing it. So let's go ahead and copy this now. Control copy, jump to the thigh of the right thigh and paste it in, and just bring it on over to the right. We can flip it or not. Let's not. Let's just twist it like this. Move it to cover the knee right like that. And then grab the magnet tool and just change some points. Just distort what we've got so it's not identical to the other one, and so it doesn't look identical. And we want to bring this in. Whoops, I didn't want to bring that in. Let's Control Z. Be careful what point you pick up. So we don't want to bring that edge over, but we do want to bring these inward because we don't want it going too far to the edge. And let's Control R to render and see how that looks. So that's looking fairly good to me. So now we're going to go down to the left shin, Control V, and just bring it down. And let's flip it north to south, and then grab our magnet and distort. So change it so that even the sharpest eyes can't go, well, you know, that looks like the exact same pattern is above there. No, they're going to be different. And we want to bring them in from the edges again. And we want to bring those in from the edges. So, like that. And then T grabs it, Control copy, jump over to the right shin, and Control V, and then drag it on over. And let's flip it and rotate it a little bit and move it over, and let's make it narrower there. And now let's render the character, and we've got highlighting on the pants, and that because we've added it into the layer of the pants, it will move with the pants moving. So there we go. And looks like our hips are not moving our pelvis properly on the left side here. It's moving the wrong pelvis. Oh, because when I moved things around, I didn't rebind those points. So let's go to the bone layer. And we're going to go to the bone. And we're going to grab this bone, and then we're going to go into the pelvis. And we're going to hit I. And let's see, B for this bone, and then I. And so it's green, and you can see the green one's over there, and the blue ones are over here, so it's gotten reversed. Okay, so maybe I can just flip the pelvis. And we're just going to flip there. So we flip the pelvis here. Now we should have the right bones. Yeah, there. So now the pelvis is moving with the correct leg, and the same on this side. So there we go. Okay. So next we're going to work on the shirt and the shoulders. So let's see here. Let's try highlighting on, let's see, we've got the shirt right there. So the highlighting on the character goes right through this section. So we want to do the same thing. We'll just leave that there for the moment. We're going to go back down to the shirt. We're going to create a new oval, and we're going to use highlight. So now let's make it about that big, and we're going to grab it and rotate it to follow that one, as much as we can. And now we're going to go to draw, so scripts, then draw, and we're going to split that curve. And I think I'm going to split it with 3 points between. So that gives us a little bit more flexibility. Now we're going to come in and we're just going to try to basically match where the highlighting is occurring on this shirt. Pull this down here like this. And we can have this come across, hit C, and we can affect the curve just for this portion. Go ahead and do it for that too. Hit T. Now we can bring this down. Now remember, we don't have to match every single line here because we're going to use the splotchy effect, and it's going to put a lot of the splotchiness in there that we're looking for. So let's bring this on down like this and over here, and we're going to be doing some shadows on top of these highlights. So let's just go ahead and do that like that. And now let's take a look. How does that look? So, oops, we can't tell as long as the original drawing's on. So we'll turn that off and then re-render. So as you can see, it works up until the top of the shirt takes over. So the shoulders. So let's go into the shoulders. Well, let's go back down to the shirt, and we're going to copy that and then go to the shoulders, which is the top of the shirt, and we'll paste that in place, and we'll just move this up like this, and we can shrink this and rotate it, and we can get exactly what we're looking for simply by moving a couple of points. So we can bring this one over to here, bring that to there, bring this one over to there, and now when we render, we've got our highlighting moving through our shirt as we wish. So I think it could use a little more variation in it. So let's go back to the bottom part here. And since we're using all these points on the upper part and they're not even showing on the bottom, let's go ahead and grab them. Let's see, right to there. And this one, hit T, and we'll just bring those down to where we can use them down here. And now we start rearranging individual points to create whatever shirt effect we're actually wanting to see. So we can bring in some, some heavy folds in the fabric, basically, just like that. And we want to leave some of this overlapping because as we twist the body, we do want those features to continue. So these should overlap with the other one, just like this. And now we can go to the neck and shoulders, and we can add points here if we need it. So let's put a little fold here, add some curve to that, and add another one over here, and add some curve to that, and another one up here, like this. And then we can grab all three of these and hit curve and increase their curve. So you can also use T, hit one point, hit C, and then go around affecting the curves on individual parts. So let's take a look at what that looks like. So there, we're getting a much better effect where it's starting to look like the shirt's got folds in it. So I think what we can do is bring some of these on over to add more depth to the shirt itself. And let's see, let's bring this one up here, this one over to here. There we go. So now it's not looking like it's a, you know, set out, must be in this area. And let's see how that works with animation. So when we turn the body left and right, oh, we didn't bind those to the layer, so let's hit T. Oh, because everything else on this is bound by points, so we're gonna have to do the same thing here. So we're just gonna hit B for bone, and then I to select the points, and click on the edge of this highlight, and then bind the points. And so now that should stay there as we move the torso around. And so that will work. So we might do some adjustment during animation, but I think that'll function. Let's take a look at what this, of course the arm wouldn't be behind it, it'd be like that. But let's do a rendering here. So that works. I don't think there's a problem with that. Character's bent over too far, but alright, so now I'm going to combine all of these hair follicles or groups into a layer of their own. So we're going to call this front hair. And that's just so I can close it down and not see it in front of me. And then we're going to do the same thing with all these images for the back of the hair. Group with selection, and then name that selection back hair. And then we can close it up so that we can now navigate past it quickly. So that's the only reason I'm doing that. It just makes it easier to navigate. So now we've got our character's hair falling as it should. We've got the body twisting with the highlights. And so now we want to start putting in all of the features for the character. So we're going to, the character shirt actually. Now, did we put on the sleeves, we have not put any patches. I think what I did over here was bound the points to the chest bone. Let's take a look here. Shoulder, left sleeve. Well, left sleeve. So yeah, these points, if we go into layers, there we go. So okay, so this one point is here. This one point is the shoulder. So we're going to do the same thing on the other side. So we're going to bind these points. So right now it's done by layer. So we need to go in and release the layer of points on this sleeve. So now we can assign them by points. So we're going to grab the bone, hit I, and just grab all of them to begin with and bind those. Then we're going to grab the center bone here and I, and bind just this one point. And then we're going to grab the shoulder bone and bind I, this one point. And now we bind, and everything's ready to go. So now we can move this arm. We don't need a patch because things are working quite well, just like this. I like that. So when we get into the smart bones, we can then bring this point on over as needed. And when we get up and around to the top, we can animate this point up and out so that we get the full curve of the shoulder here. So this will work without a patch here. So now we want to start applying the different highlight parts. Well, first let's make the shirt match the shirt. So we're going to turn on the kid, And we're going to go to the shoulders, and we want to match exactly where the shirt is. So we're going to grab these points and bring it to the shirt here and here. And let's make these shoulder bulges a little larger. Originally I was doing them small to make sure of the rotation for the arm, but that's now set, so changing this will not affect how the arm rotates. It's just going to change what shows when we move the arms too far. So now let's go to the shirt, and we need to make the shirt match this shirt. So we're just going to bring all these points right to where they are, follow the line of the original shirt by Best Man In, because he did such a great job on this. We don't want to waste any of it. So let's bring this one to here. This one comes down to there. This one here. This one all the way to there. And there. And just like that. So now we want to match all of this, of course, so we're going to add a point and bring this up, hit curve, and then curve that exactly the way we want it to create the full curve of this area here. So T brings this on over, C for curve. Now we can curve this out. We can come up here, curve this in a bit. This one needs to curve outward. So this one goes in. This one needs to move on over actually and up to right there. So we want it to be as close as possible to the original so that when the arm comes up in a way it looks normal. So let's bring this curve in, bring this curve out. And there we go. So this is a little, well, it is bulgy there too. So then we come down here, hit C, and Alt lets us move one bezier, bezel, whatever you call these control bars. And there, now we're matching the bottom of the shirt very closely. Let's go ahead and get it even closer. And there we go. So now our shirt is more closely matched to our characters. So looks like the arms are off. There should be some rounding to the arms there, which we'll take care of. So, but right now we're working on the shirt. So the collar looks good. The sleeves are decent, although they're different. We're just going to do one and copy it. So now let's go ahead and do the pants. The pelvis first. And T, and grab these points, and we're going to bring them. Now we got to think that the pants are going to be up under the shirt a bit. So just like that. Let's add a point to bring this over here, because we do want to be able to have the pants be very wrinkly, as they obviously are, and we want to be able to change these points during animation too. So there we go. There's the pants, I believe, on the pelvis part. So now we're going to move to each thigh, And we're just going to start adding points to follow. And let's go ahead and turn on curvy points. So Control Z, and go ahead and make this a curvy point here, and a curvy point here, and back out, and back in. Now we don't have to go in and out on every single curve. We can use the Beziers to make our curved parts, but the more points we put, the more we can vary things during animation. And so, but also every point adds to your memory usage. So you got to, get a happy medium depending on the system you're using. Your system may require, may not have as much processing power as someone else's. So that may be why, if you're trying to duplicate other people's work, if you're not using a powerful enough computer, that could affect what you're producing. Same with the graphics card and your RAM, that all affects it, and your storage as well. So let's bring this just like that. So there we've got that upper pants look happening. Let's go ahead and go to the thigh on the other side. And let's see, this is a little far out. But see, we're not going to worry about things now because we've already created the right rotational. And so we can move these, but we're going to keep our leg rotating at the right place. So it shouldn't make too big of a difference. But we'll go ahead and add some points here. We'll bring this on out to here. And we'll bring this one to here. And then one here. And one here. Then out here. And over here. And then back in. So, that's where these extra points come in, is where we can make some fold backs on the material. Let's go ahead and bring this one on down to there. And then add. And just like that. And then this one moves over to here. And add. And there we go. So this is a little off there. Let's go ahead and bring that out. And let's add another point here. So here too. There we go. So now we're starting to look like our Superaware character. Look at those pants. Let's render that. And yeah, we're starting to look like our character. Very good. So moving on, we're going to go to the shin, turn our character back on, and we're just going to make our points follow the shin. So here, we pick this up. Now remember, we're overlapping. We've already got this rounded part on the upper part of the thigh, but these will be rotating against each other, and they will create some weird looking curves, and that's fine. So now we're going to add here. Now remember, we're doing the pants, and so there will be times when we need to tuck them into the shoe or to pull them down over the shoe. So let's go ahead and put some points there to do that. And the same on this side. We're going to add a couple of extra points here that we can follow the shoe if we need to, or come out on top of it. Move these, and we can do that simply by moving the layers now, where the shin is over top of the shoe as opposed to the shoe being over top of the shin. And pick this point up by hitting T on the keyboard, and then A to add, and there we should be fine. So let's take a look without the Superwear kit and render it. I think that's looking pretty good. So we need to do the other shin, of course. So let's go here, A to add, set this point, bring this on out a little bit, bring it back in over here, a little rough along the edge. And again, let's just add the extra points that we don't need at the moment to follow the shoe there. So we can now bring this flap over the shoe if we want, or behind. Now we're going to continue on to the other side and bring this on over here. Well, let's go up here and then bring it on down. There we go. And we now have merchandise if you're interested, if you'd like to help support what we're doing, if you'd like to help change the paradigm of abuse awareness. We've created some objects on Teespring where you can go in and purchase our t-shirts, sweatshirts, notebook and puzzle and coloring book. So if we go here, so you can see here's our Respect My Personal Space notebook. It's a little expensive, $20, but the artwork is amazing and people will notice this. And you can get it in different colors too. If you don't like the black, you can go with many different colors. Then we've got the Respect Classic long sleeve t-shirt, and then a short sleeve women's classic t-shirt. We've got our Respect My Personal Space coffee cup, a hoodie, a sweatshirt, a kid's t-shirt, a Respect My Personal Space puzzle, which I guarantee you is going to be a lot more challenging than you might think. With all that black in there, good luck. And a woman's racerback tank shirt, a Zoy Zoy Hop Shouting Danger bandana, and the Bugillagers coloring book. And these prices are a bit high for what you can get a similar item for in the real world, yes, but remember, this is to help support Danger Aware, and we have to go by what Teespring sets for the base price and then add what we want to get for each sale to help change the paradigm of abuse awareness. So don't think of them as expensive, think of them as a donation. So anyway, let me go back to this character. So now we've got the pants done, and let's fix those arms. So we've, we've got the right arm and the left arm here. And I think it was just the, where the forearms come in. Let's see, there's the forearm here. So yeah, it's not really following the lines of the character. So now that we've got our rotational correct, let's go ahead and hit T, and we're just going to bring these lines where we need them. And the inner one, I think we can leave it mostly alone. So there we go. And then we're going to do the forearm on the other side. Oh, that's terrible. Doesn't even come close to what it's looking like there. But let's go ahead and bring this point on out. This point on out. And this one on over. So hit C for curve, and we can curve this wrist part in here. And this muscle part here on out. So there we go. And let's go ahead and check the biceps. Yeah, that's way off too. So hit T. We're going to bring this on out here. Hit C for the curve. And then we're just going to curve it around to match what it should look like there. And that would bring that up like that on the top. Bring this on out. And then the biceps on the other side. That one's closed, but let's go ahead and bring this on over. And this on out. And then hit the curves. Hit one item, one point, and then hit C for curve. Now we can affect the curve for each point individually. And there we go. So now we're looking more like our character. So let's hide the original and do a rendering. I think that's coming along really well. Clean up the pants a little on the feet here. It looks a little funky at the moment, but let's see. Let's go down. I think that curves just way too much. There we go. And then on the other shin, there's right there next to it. So let's go ahead and bring this point down like this. I think that looks better. Yeah, that looks like a kid standing there. So very good. We're going to end it here. So you have a wonderful day. Please visit dangeraware.org and play our games. Visit our comics pages. Play our contests. Enter our contests. We want people to color our pages and create posters and create essays on how to call out the dangers of abuse. So if you've got anyone in your family that can help us, send them our way. Have a wonderful day, and thanks for joining us. Hit that like and subscribe, and please share.